Most freelance developers have no idea how much they should be charging, and they miss out on thousands upon thousands of dollars by simply charging too little. In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how much you should charge as a freelance developer. I'm going to explain how you can justify that price and how you can adjust that depending on the client that you're working for. Now, my name is Tim. I've been a software developer for over 5 years. I've done full-time work, freelance work. I've paid freelance developers, and I've gone from making about $20 per hour to over $400 per hour when I do freelance and consulting work. I know that sounds insane, but I promise you, after you watch this video, you'll understand why and how you can get to that same level. So with that said, let's get into the video after a quick word from our sponsor. If you're like me, then you look at your screen for 8 to 10 hours every single day, making your monitor one of your most used items. Fortunately, a few years ago, I discovered BenQ, and they've been my go-to monitor brand since. So much so that I teamed up with them and they've sponsored this video and are actually the official monitor brand of Tech with Tim. Right now, BenQ actually offers some really affordable monitors that are specifically designed for programmers under their GW line. These monitors actually offer a coding mode, which optimizes the contrast and saturation specifically for dark mode, eye care technology, USB-C connection, and a great quality display without breaking the bank. These monitors come in 24 and 27 inch and are perfect for anyone looking to upgrade from a single laptop screen or a low quality display. Personally, I use two 27-inch GW 2785 TCs for my secondary setup where I work off of my Mac laptop with one of them positioned vertically. They've got speakers, a microphone, and best of all, they offer BenQ eye care technology, which automatically adjusts the brightness of the screen to make it easier on your eyes. Check them out from the link in the description and enhance your coding and efficiency today. The first thing you need to understand as a freelance developer is that you are a business. You may be the only developer in that business, but you are a business. That means that you need to maximize profits just like every other business that exists on planet Earth. Put aside the emotions. You're not the nice guy helping out a friend. You're not doing this as charitable work. You're not doing it for fun or a side project. You are making money. Keep that frame in that context whenever you get into any type of negotiation, and you'll see immediately that you're going to be treated with a bit more respect and that you're going to be able to demand higher rates. Now, why is that the case? Well, a lot of software developers are very nonchalant. They're very relaxed. They're developers after all, right? They want to sit in the basement, they want to write code, and they want to do the engineering work. And that is definitely me. But at the same time, you need to put on that CEO kind of business hat, act as a professional, and go into a meeting with the idea that you're here to negotiate and you're here to figure out what the optimal exchange of value is between you and the business. What you are doing as a freelance developer is you are providing value to a company or to an individual, a client, whatever it may be. In return, you're going to be compensated for that value. So you need to understand how much value are you able to provide, and then what percentage of that value are you going to take back as your compensation. So let's give an example here. When I was much younger, 18, 19 years old, I would actually do homework assignments for friends or on sites like Fiverr. So people would kind of come to me and say, hey, I have this Python assignment. I waited 2 days until it's due. I'm not gonna be able to finish it. Can you finish it for me? In that context, I was only able to provide minimum value. The reason for that is I'm working for a student. This isn't something that's going to make them any kind of money. All I'm doing is saving their grade, and I'm saving them the time of completing the assignment. So in that case, charging $30 per hour or charging $100 or $200 for the project is a reasonable exchange of value because I'm saving them a bit of time and I'm saving them, their grade or a portion of their grade. Now let's switch the example up and imagine that we're working for a company that makes $1 million per month in revenue. They sell some product or service, they have a checkout page. That checkout page is poorly optimized. You can go in there and optimize it, fix some technical bugs, and maybe that leads to 5% more people actually making it through the checkout process. If that's the case, you did probably the same amount of work that you might have done for another client, but you were able to provide $50,000 worth of value in the first month, right? It's $600,000 worth of value over the entire year. In that context, is it reasonable for you to charge $20,000 to do that fix or $25,000? Sure it is. You are only clawing back 50% of the value that you provided to the company. From their perspective, it's a no-brainer. Look at the ROI. They just got a 200% ROI on their cost, and a lot of times they're not even going to pay you until it's finished. Think of things like bug bounties. Why do they pay so much for that? Because the amount of money they get back from the work that you are doing is absurd. So it's much more about the client that you're working for and the amount of value you can inject and provide than it is what exactly you're doing or the technical skill that you have. So always keep that in mind and go into your negotiations and meetings with the idea that you are going to figure out where you can provide the most amount of value. You're going to ask the correct questions. You're going to understand the type of business that you're working for, and you're going to put that business and kind of CEO hat on and start the negotiation from a value proposition perspective. All right, so now let's dive into hourly versus per project pricing. Now, in the majority of situations, you're going to make more money if you charge per project, and it's going to be a lot easier to charge a much higher rate because you're not breaking it down per hour. Typically, you don't want to charge for your time. You want to charge for your experience and the value you're able to provide. However, this is only the case if you have a very, very well-defined project where the requirements are scoped out, you know exactly what it is that you need to do, and you draw up a great legal contract that defines exactly what you need to provide to be given that amount of money. It also is important that you're taking a portion of that money up front and that you have some type of payment plan so you don't need to wait until the entire kind of finished product of the project to get your payment. This case, even if the client's complaining about the final deliverable, maybe you already have 75% of the income for the project and you're actually in a decent situation and you don't need to worry about maybe suing someone or going through a whole kind of massive process, which can happen, especially if you're a small freelance developer working for yourself. So keep that in mind. With project-based pricing, you want to have the project very, very well defined. This cannot be something where it's like, oh, we need to build this, and they don't tell you exactly what you need. They should be defining the requirements, and you should have a strict list of exactly the deliverables that you need to provide and what is going to be the criteria for success for completion. If you hit those, you need to get paid, and you need to get paid throughout the project, right? So if you're not getting paid, you know, that 50% payment up front or whatever you want to charge, you don't start work. Very, very important you do that to protect yourself. Now, for hourly, this is going to work in much more dynamic, flexible situations where you're not sure exactly what work you're going to be doing or how long it's going to take. If that's the case, you're going to pick an hourly rate, which we'll get into in 1 second, and you're going to track exactly what you do in those hours, and you're going to make it clear at the beginning through a written legal contract what it is that you're expected to do in the hours that you're working. Most important thing, especially as you get into higher rates here, guys, is that you have everything on paper. Even if it's emails, you need to have everything in writing. There's no handshake deals here. I can't tell you how many times that has gone very poorly for myself and for people I know. Get it in writing. All right, so now let's talk about actually picking your price. First of all, when you're pricing for a project, this is going to be preferred. You're probably going to make more money this way, and it's going to be a lot easier to justify a much higher rate. So when possible, do project-based pricing. However, again, make sure you're protecting yourself and you have it very, very well defined exactly what it is that you need to deliver, so you know that you're not going to be working essentially for free to do something you didn't originally agree upon. Okay, so if you're doing this, it's pretty much exactly what I told you. You're going to determine the amount of value you're able to provide, and you're going to take a percentage of that back in compensation. Let's say we're making a website. Let's say the website reasonably will allow the company to make $10,000 per month. Maybe they convert 100 users on the website that each pay them $100. In this case, is it reasonable for you to charge them $10,000 or $5,000 for the website? Yes, that's reasonable because they're going to make that back in 1 month or 2 months or 2 weeks, however you want to figure it out. Okay, so that is a very reasonable way to charge for project. Now, when you're charging per hour, it becomes a bit more difficult. Typically, what you're doing is very loosely defined. You don't have a deliverable, and it's much harder to say, hey, I'm going to provide this, or this is the tangible finished product. So here, you're typically going to go with some industry standard rates, which I'm going to share with you now, and I'll talk about how you can bump those up. All right, so if you're an entry level or junior developer, this means you're really just getting started out. You don't have advanced technical knowledge. You can't do everything yourself. You're really going to be doing smaller tasks, scripting stuff, and working for people that don't have any coding experience, right? If this is the case, there's a lot of competition for what you're doing, and you're probably going to be in the $25 to $50 per hour range. With that said, if you have a specialty in a specific niche, you know a module really well, you know something that not a lot of other people in your industry know, then you can bump this rate up and you can charge slightly more. But I would say for most of you, you want to try to be charging $35 to $40 per hour as an entry or junior level developer. Also remember, if you're doing this on a contract basis and you're working for one company a lot, they're not paying you benefits, they're not paying you payroll tax, so whatever someone would be getting paid as a junior or entry level developer at that company, you should be making more on an hourly basis than they are. You don't have job security, you don't have benefits, you don't have any of that stuff. So if the developers are making 30 bucks an hour, you should be making 40, okay? That's what you want to think about, maybe even charging more. Now, mid-level developers, right? This is probably where most of you will fit in. I'd recommend you're charging around $100 per hour. 50 to 100, again, depends exactly on what you're doing. A really good rate, $75, $80, $85, $90 an hour. Go look at job postings. Most full-time software engineers are going to get paid around $100,000 per year, maybe $80,000 per year in the United States, again, depending on where you live. So if someone's making $80K per year, what does that work out to? 40, 50 bucks an hour, something like that. I don't know what the exact rate ends up being. So if that's the case, you probably are charging $65, $70, $75 an hour. Again, you're going to be above whatever the kind of full-time salary hourly pay equivalent would be. You're probably going to be working less hours and you're not going to have all the benefits and all that other stuff. Lastly, senior developers. Now, this is where it gets a little bit insane. This means you're capable of doing probably everything that the company needs, whether that means you do it yourself or you have other people, up to you. But you're going to be charging anywhere from $100 to really, it's kind of infinite, but usually $200 or more per hour. A lot of times at this point, I am really considered a more senior developer now. I start charging at $100 an hour, and I'll only do $100 an hour if I'm building a long-term relationship with a company. If it's something where I'm only going to be working 10 hours, 20 hours, something along those lines, I'll usually bump it up to $300, $400 per hour so that the company understands, hey, yeah, it's a really high rate, but I'm only working 10 hours, so you're only going to have to pay me max $4K, okay? This is another thing to keep in mind. Your rate will depend on the number of hours projected that you're going to be working. If you're working for a company and you're only doing 5 hours, whatever the rate is you'd normally charge, double it or triple it, because you're only getting 5 hours from that company and you're not getting any kind of relationship. You're not getting any other benefits you may get if you're doing more hours with that company. There's no consistency. There's no reliability, right? Whereas if a company's promising you minimum 20 hours per week or something, then your rate's going to be slightly lower because you have that security of income. So that's what I like to consider when I'm picking the hourly rate. But none of you should be charging less than $25 per hour, especially if you live in the United States. And keep in mind that even though you're competing with a lot of other people here, you are the professional. You are the business person. You're going to get it done. You are a legitimate business, right? You're doing freelance software development. You're not just another dude on Fiverr. You're someone who's going to respond, who's going to be professional, who's going to get the work done, who's going to hit the standards and meet the requirements. If you can do that, you're already above 90% of people, and your rates are based on really what you can do and the amount of value you can provide. It's not based on the competition in the market. No one comes to me and asks for consultation and says, oh, well, this guy only charges $300. They come to me because they know I'm capable of doing it and they want me to do it. So I get to pick the rate, right? That's the position you want to be in. Obviously that takes time, but I'm just trying to give you the full perspective here on how you can really make it as a freelance developer. All right, last thing here, a few extras to consider. First of all, always have something in writing. As I said, consulting agreement, freelance agreement, whatever you want to call it, get a lawyer, write it up for you, pay the few $100, use it as a template. In this agreement, define, first of all, maintenance and a warranty period, okay? Especially if you're doing a big project. You want to say, hey, if there's any critical issue, something that was my fault, that I did wrong, I will go in there and at no extra cost, I will go fix that for you. Now you can write a specific criteria for what is going to be under warranty, right? Just like any product or service that you buy, you typically have a warranty. If you're a legit professional here, you're going to have a warranty on stuff that you're providing as a freelance developer. Beyond that, maintenance or additional changes. A lot of times clients are going to say, hey, can you fix this? Can you change this? Can you add some text or make this image larger? Whatever, something that wasn't originally in the required scope of work. If you want, if it's a small thing, go ahead and do it for free, but typically I will put in a maintenance hourly rate. That means, hey, once all of this is finished, if you want me to go do maintenance on this site, this means I'm going to charge you $100 per hour for maintenance or whatever it is that you want to pick for the maintenance rate. Now, if you end up doing a lot of extra work, you probably want to draw up an additional consulting agreement where you're doing, a new set of features, a new set of very strict requirements, and maybe you're charging a flat fee for that additional work. All right, lastly, licensing and intellectual property. Very important and oftentimes overlooked. If you're providing software for someone, it's going to be implied that they own the software and they own the code, but you want to put this in writing and they're going to want this in writing a lot of times. So you need to be very clear that whatever it is that you do, is their property if that's the way that you want to set it up. Now, there's all kinds of other things, licensing models, etc. Sorry, but you want to be very clear. What is the company's intellectual property? What is your intellectual property? And what are you licensing or allowing them to use? Or what do they own once this work is finished? Okay, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to talk about this too much, but look at that. Pay a lawyer. Trust me, it's worth it. Get those clauses in there and very clearly define, especially anything that you have that you don't want to potentially be stolen by a company. Let's say you use a proprietary piece of software that you've written yourself that you use for all these different companies for all your freelance work. Well, it's reasonable that a company might actually say, hey, well, you did that while we were paying you per hour to work on this product. That's ours. We own that piece of software. So you want to make sure you would exclude that specifically so that there's no question that any internal tools or software you write for your own use is not owned by that company. Anyways, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.